And what has worked for me is, when I talk to people, I tell them I don't install residential solar. I've never put solar on a house. I put them on the whole community, right? So I don't knock on doors and do that. And I feel that the reason why I do that is because I don't want to protect just one family. I want to protect that entire community. My attitude towards that approach is very prevalent. I don't walk in saying, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'd like to help you. I sit there and say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you do not want to be the only house with power and the entire community that you live in is Black. If you do that, there will be a right to come over to your house. We need to make sure that every house in this community has their power on when there's a blackout. Would you agree?
Are you speeding the energy transition? Here at the Clean Power Hour, our host Tim Montague bring you the best in solar, batteries, and clean technologies every week. Want to go deeper into decarbonization? We do too. We're here to help you understand and command the commercial, residential, and utility solar, wind, and storage industries. So let's get to it. Together we can speed the energy transition.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 10 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS product lineup includes string inverters ranging from 25 kW to 350 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 350 kW, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. CPS is the world's most bankable inverter brand and is America's #1 choice for solar plants, now offering solutions for commercial, utility, ESS, and balance of system requirements. Go to chintpowersystems.com or call 855-584-7168 to find out more. Hey guys, are you a residential solar installer doing light commercial but wanting to scale into large C&I solar? I'm Tim Montague. I've developed over 150 megawatts of commercial solar, and I've solved the problem that you're having. You don't know what tools and technologies you need in order to successfully close 100 kW to megawatt scale projects. I've developed a commercial solar accelerator to help installers exactly like you. Just go to cleanpowerhour.com, click on strategy, and book a call today. It's totally free with no obligation. Thanks for being a listener. I really appreciate you listening to the pod. And I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage. Go to Clean Power Hour and click strategy today. Thanks so much. Today on the Clean Power Hour, microgrids and VPPs. My guest is AJ Perkins, known as the Microgrid Whisperer or Microgrid Mentor. He has extensive experience with large-scale residential, talking 3,000 home residential developments that are being solar and batteryized, okay? He is a very unique individual. He does a lot of work in Hawaii and Alaska with native communities. Welcome back to the show, AJ.
Aloha. Thank you so much, Tim. It's great to be back.
Aloha. It is an exciting time. It is the best of times and the worst of times at the same time.
Absolutely.
Here in August of 2025, the OBBB is a bit of a wrecking ball, but guess what? It increases the value of batteries for everyone. It is increasing the price of electricity for everyone, which means solar and batteries pencil faster. So it's game on in batteries and microgrids. AJ, I would love it if you could give us a cliff notes of how you got interested in solar and battery microgrids and how the industry has evolved in the last 10 years.
So this is it's a fun story. My background is business. I've been a growth CEO for 20, 30 years. I've been in the renewable energy industry for about 11 years. And in 2016 was when I first got introduced to Jigger Shaw. We had secured a contract with LA Unified School District, and our company, executive said, we need help because we don't know what we're doing. We need to figure this out. And at the time, Jigger just secured supported funding for a school district up north in Northern California. And we reached out. And that initial conversation led to an ongoing call with the one and only Jigger Shaw. And I'm new to the industry, so I'm just like, okay, cool, we get to talk. And it was this ongoing conversation that led us to the point where PG&E was getting ready to start their public safety power shutoffs. And I remember vividly, it was September of 2017 when Jigger and I had a call, and he said, AJ, I need your help. I need you to build microgrids. And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I'll figure it out. And the context was, everybody knows that PG&E is going to file bankruptcy, but what they don't know is they're going to shut off the power 30 times next year. And Generate Capital, the company who he was with at the time, said, he's like, we will finance all of these microgrids to help protect the community. And lo and behold, 11 years later, I'm still building microgrids. We've got a little over 3.8 gigawatts of projects that I've put under contract since then.
Jigger was just on the show recently. Check out cleanpowerhour.com for that interview and all of our content on audio, on video. Please give us a rating and a review on Apple or Spotify, and reach out to me on LinkedIn. So that is a great story about him understanding where the puck was going, right? Those power shutoffs, public safety power shutoffs. They are a unique phenomenon in California. I remember the brownouts and the fires living in San Diego. And I don't miss that, I have to say. I love San Diego. I go back regularly, and just to hang out with solar geeks and put my toes in the sand. It's a lovely place. But public safety power shutoffs, because of the winds and the fires, it's no fun. But batteries are a come to rescue for that phenomenon, for sure. So tell us a little more, though, about the evolution of microgrids and VPPs now. Right now we have sophisticated control systems and machine learning and AI that can, control this massive network of small batteries and treat it as a power plant that you can instantly ramp or unramp. And it's a sponge, right? It can absorb energy. It can attack the duck curve in California, right? Absorbing all that solar and wind energy. And then it can release it in the afternoon when power prices are high, demand is high, and it's a money machine.
Sure. We kind of saw what was going on, understanding microgrids at the time, back in 2017, 18, when it was a tool for resilience. Around that time is when I also got involved with demand response. And I was involved with the utility program to help bring, more customers, C&I, commercial and industrial customers, into the demand response world. And what I learned was many of these same customers, they like the idea of a revenue stream for curtailing and, pulling back on their power when the utility needed it, but they didn't like it when it affected their business. So this demand response program became, some people said it was a failure because people kept opting out. But me now being in the microgrid world, I kept looking at this saying, I'm building a microgrid to protect these facilities from emergencies. But unlike a diesel generator that is sitting there idle until they need it, I have a microgrid that doesn't have to sit. I could actually utilize it. So that's where, back around that same time, I started looking at this saying, what if I use the excess power that was in reserve in case of an emergency for these facilities? And when it wasn't an emergency, what if I use that as a way to deploy to support the grid?
Exactly.
So we were deploying these microgrids so that we could avoid business interruption and simultaneously support the grid, because it was a really good financial situation. And that's where our learning just took off.
And what year was that?
2018.
Yeah.
2019, going into 2020. And around that time, we did a project in New Zealand. because back then we didn't have FERC 2222, all the regulations in the US was more challenging at the time. So we actually did a project in New Zealand, 20,000 homes. This was a pilot. And we put solar, a 10 kWh battery, and our controls. And we segmented 20% of every battery so that we could sell back to the utility and use it as support. Now, that was a unique program because we gave Mercury Energy the Staples Easy Red button. Anytime you need power, just press the button. But because we were able to support the grid, the payback period on that project went from 7 to 11 years, a typical payback period. It went down to 18 months. And that was the big light bulb moment for us saying,
say that again. The phenomenon that shortened the payback dramatically was what?
Us taking the power and nominating it into the grid to support the grid and getting paid back during, let's call it, demand response times. So now we're not just we're not talking about NEM 3 and NEM 2. We're not talking about getting paid back for the excess. We're saying we're going to hold it in our batteries until the utility needs it. So now we're not getting paid pennies for our power. When they need it, they're paying dollars, or multiple pennies.
So you're talking about arbitrage.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're producing power at 8 to 12 cents per kWh in solar, and then we're selling it back at, 20, 30, a dollar, potentially, depending on what's going on in the market.
Buy low, sell high. It works.
Well, and this is the other part. And this was a risk that we took back then. We looked at this saying the likelihood of a demand response event happening at the same time as a public safety power shutoff or blackout was very low. So we didn't mind nominating more of it because the likelihood of those two events happening at the same time, we just didn't feel it was going to happen. So that was a chance we took. And, we were fortunate to see a lot of financial benefits and benefits in general for the way that we built our systems.
So when I think about the microgrid landscape, I think about, okay, what's the cost of power? The more expensive power, the more important solar and batteries become. I think about regional legislation. California, New York, Illinois, these states have low-income programs. They have specific battery incentive programs that shorten the payback period for battery equipment. And I think about the cost of the technology coming down, the cost adoption curve, right? We are riding that curve down, and as the technology doubles in adoption, the cost comes down 25%. That's the general rule of thumb, and that's very real, right? And now we can install, whether it's host-owned or third-party owned, a solar and battery system, whether it's a VPP or a microgrid or both, and you see this tremendous value stack for whoever the owner is. And, let's face it, for a homeowner, they don't need to own the battery. If it can give them resilience, they're stoked. Big time, right? Because in some markets, that's super valuable, like California, like Texas, where you have hurricanes. The Northeast, as we speak, is getting battered by a big hurricane. And you want resilience, and that's worth millions of dollars because it's no fun to have no electricity. We go so seldom without electricity, we forget what it's like. But camping is something we do for fun, not for life. And when you're camping in your home, for more than a couple of days, that's rough. I've heard some amazing stories from the storm Uri in Texas, that caused a major outage for several days and almost for several weeks. And, people are drinking snow from their front lawn. That was how bad things were because the infrastructure completely failed. So we have a long way to go, but microgrids truly are going to be part of the fabric of the grid of tomorrow. So let's fast forward, AJ. What's going on in the modern landscape that you're dialed into and really leaning into that is taking this microgrid game to the next level?
So, we've done a lot of things within the microgrid world, everything from residential to CNI, commercial and industrial, to utility scale, and creating this infrastructure as a service scenario. That was really a good learning scenario as well for us, because now we're bringing infrastructure as a service to these municipalities, where we're not just bringing energy, but we're bringing energy, telecom, water, in some cases hydrogen, right? And a lot of it was because we see that these municipalities have a big need, but people are compartmentalizing their offerings. So a solar guy is talking only about solar, a battery, like it's the siloed approach. Whereas if you're a city manager, if you're a municipality man, you're sitting there saying, bro, I got this huge problem. I don't need to talk to 20 different people. I want to talk to one person that can help me understand this, because my job is this, but I need to solve this problem. So by us coming in and bringing the smart people to the table, the water people, the energy people, and those two go hand in hand, the telecom people. And this was something that we learned on this infrastructure as a service scenario. We had this project to support a municipal for 2 gigawatts of power. A huge opportunity. Now, going out and getting funding for that project, I had 3 or 4 funding, sources saying, okay, yeah, we could help you. We think we could help you. But our sister company was a telecom company that had the contract to do fiber in a city. And they said, AJ, when you open up the ground to lay your energy lines, if you have us come in to lay our telecom lines, it reduces our cost 50 to 80%. And I was blown. You're talking a $50 million contract to get reduced 50 to 80%. So that means I could offer a benefit to our customers at a fraction of the cost, just by inviting them to come and lay their lines when we lay our lines. So when I presented that new dynamic to our funding sources, I went from 3 maybes to 7, count me in.
Wow.
Even though it was a higher price tag. And I asked them, I was like, well, wait, why is it that you're now super excited to do this? And their response to me was, AJ, when we finance these assets that are spread throughout a municipal area, one of the challenges is making sure we have data and insights and all these things because of interconnectivity. But if you're saying that we will also be able to increase the connectivity because of laying fiber and high speed and everything, you reduce our risk, increase our value, but all these things. And that's where we saw the value of bringing more solutions to the problem that was at hand, which was, now we're talking about hydrogen. How can you be talking about bringing hydrogen to a state that is drought stricken? So now, by us being able to bring atmospheric water generators simultaneously with clean energy.
What state are you talking about now with hydrogen?
To me, like, why would you talk about hydrogen to a place like California where they're fighting over water for agriculture and
well, it depends on how you're getting the water. If you're desalinating salt water,
absolutely,
perhaps, there are places where all the drinking water comes from desalination. California has a lot of solar energy. You could run solar desalination plants or nuclear desalination plants. But anyway, like, I guess what occurs to me is what you're talking about is innovation also, right? There are innovative approaches to development that can greatly enhance the ROI of these projects. Absolutely. If you're smart. Absolutely. And you're layering on things like, well, if you're going to build a bunch of new homes, right, set them up from the beginning to have solar and batteries. Don't retrofit Absolutely. In. That's more expensive to retrofit. Make sure that they have enough amperage in that service to function as a VPP to get the juice out to the bigger grid when the time comes, when the need Absolutely. Is there.
Absolutely. So, so that was one thing with the infrastructure as a service. And recently, within the past few months, I'll say, we had an article that came out. Lisa Cohn from Microgrid Knowledge recently wrote an article about a project we're doing in Hawaii around this utility light concept. And the idea was taking this idea of microgrids, VPP, and community ownership. So it's basically the same thing that we're looking at with microgrids and VPPs, but we're implementing this new paradigm shift where it's no longer the big PPA companies that are owning the power and giving us a 20% reduction in our utility cost, right? What
Or
we're
less,
saying is
maybe
there's
10%.
exactly if you're lucky, right? But the reality is, for anybody that digs into the financial metrics of funding these PPAs and whatnot, there's a lot of money being made. So
Yeah.
what if we could actually bring that money directly back to the communities that you're serving? So that's where this utility light model came in. So, like you said at the beginning of your show, 3,000 homes in Hawaii. Imagine if we could take that VPP concept, put solar batteries, EV charging on every home in that community, and then monetize that as a whole, because now we've got this community VPP scenario. But now instead of the profits leaving Hawaii and going into shareholders, we're actually bringing it right back to the community so they could uplift.
So this begs the question, what is the role of utilities in all of this? Because sometimes the clean energy industry sees itself at loggerheads with the utility industry. My colleague Barry Cinnamon of the Energy Show loves to rail on California utilities for being stodgy and creating friction for infrastructure upgrades like solar and batteries, which are good for consumers and actually good for the grid operator. So what's your perspective on the utilities and like this project in Hawaii, where are they at?
Well, I was born and raised in Hawaii, and my parents taught me, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say it. And as an adult, I've kind of understood that in a different way, which is, if you don't understand everything, don't just sit there and just start throwing darts. So when I got involved with microgrids in the very beginning, I can say every single person that knew I was talking about microgrids, because I'm on stage a lot. I'm speaking at conferences all the time, and I'm talking about microgrids in 2017 and 18, and 99% of the people said the utilities must hate you. And my response 100% of the time was, you don't know how to talk to utilities. Because I was never trying to take a customer away from a utility.
Mm-hmm.
My job, when Jigger first asked me to step in and build microgrids, Jigger didn't say, let's go steal business from the utilities. Jigger specifically asked me, AJ, they're going to shut off the power. So can you go talk to your customer, Kaiser at the time? Can you talk to them and say, when they have to shut off the power, we will build a microgrid so that your power doesn't go off. That's a whole different concept. This isn't taking away from the utilities. This is saying, utility, I got you. If you got to shut off the power in this area of the grid to protect the entire community, shut it off, and this hospital will not go down.
Yeah, I truly believe it is a win-win. And check out my interview with Craig Lewis of Clean Coalition. He's running around developing community-scale microgrids, mostly in California, but he has a project in the Midwest in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, Michigan as well. And these are projects that support tens of thousands of residents and important community infrastructure like community centers, first responders, firehouses, police, hospitals. And it's a win-win for the utility as well, because they want to build infrastructure. They have a cost plus model that incentivizes them to say to their owners, we are going to build infrastructure. That is how we generate profit. Guess what? They can build solar batteries and microgrid infrastructure, the switch gear necessary, and maybe some other upgrades, so that the community has resilience. They get to build infrastructure instead of transmission and distribution infrastructure, right? And then the community gets resilience. So it's a win-win. And I think this truly is this has been the aha for me. Like, this is why community scale microgrids and VPPs are truly the future.
So, I mean, this is what I was told a long time ago. I got a lot of smart people that I am fortunate to work with. And, years ago, they said, AJ, utilities should stay with transmission and distribution and continue to do the things, because we don't want to be in the T&D world. I don't want to be a utility. I don't. The utilities are good at what they do. And as they have to do more, it makes it more challenging. So for instance, when we were building a community out in the desert in California, we asked the utility, we need a line to come out to this 5,000 home development. They were going to charge us $1 million a mile. Now that the developer said, AJ, let's just go ahead and build this off grid. Let's go ahead and create, microgrids for every home, and then create, so nanogrids on every home with connected to a community microgrid. As we built this, scenario out there, it turned out to be a 18 megawatt community of batteries, right? So now we went back to the same utility and said, hey, we're going to have this community that they're building. It's going to have 18 megawatts of power. Would you like access to that power? It now went from them charging us to send a line out there to them wanting to send a line out there themselves, because now they have access to an 18 megawatt VPP power plant that they didn't have to pay for. They didn't have to find the land. So imagine if we could work with the utilities by saying, we will build the infrastructure. You guys come in and build the T&D so that we can financially benefit one another. And that's just one example of how we can work nicely with the utilities and support each other.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 10 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS product lineup includes string inverters ranging from 25 kW to 350 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 350 kW, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. CPS is the world's most bankable inverter brand and is America's #1 choice for solar plants, now offering solutions for commercial, utility, ESS, and balance of system requirements. Go to chintpowersystems.com or call 855-584-7168 to find out more. In your work, what are the organizations that are kind of really furthering this phenomenon and helping create a playbook that utilities can grab onto? Like, what are the organizations or the developers besides yourself? I see you as a catalyst for sure. But what else should our listeners know about that they can get in touch with? Because we need to rinse, wash, repeat this in so many other places across the whole country. This isn't just for California or Hawaii. This is for everywhere, USA.
I agree. And I can say, like, our project in Hawaii was started because we had a community out in Waianae that on the island of Oahu, the main island, when you fly into Hawaii, into Honolulu, on Oahu, Waianae is the only area of the island that the utility is approved to do public safety power shutoffs. Just so happens out in that area is a huge population of Native Hawaiians, Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Mm-hmm. So you could look at this community as, a community that's getting disadvantage because of so many different things.
Yep.
And they're saying, AJ, we need help. We need power. We need lower cost of electricity. We need more resiliency. So it was truly a community that came to us and said, help us figure out a solution for our problem. That's where Utility Light was born. Now, from there, we are now in a situation where in Orange County, believe it or not, we have mobile home parks that are getting their power shut off 3 or 4 times a week because they only have so much going in. People use too much power and then it trips the circuits. So they're needing a similar situation of resiliency, lower cost of energy, blah, 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 for a community that needs help. We're building this. Like just this past week, we spoke with the owners and they're like, yes, this is a good solution. Let's do this. So this was community led, both in Hawaii and Southern California, that's going to continue to reach out. So when you ask, where else can we do this? You can take this same model anywhere. For us, this isn't proprietary. When people ask me, AJ, can you help me? I'll give you the full playbook. It's not, okay, I'm going to charge you this. Let me go buy this. No, I will give you exactly what we're doing and I can help walk you through those steps because I don't want to say it's not hard, but it's not as hard as people think.
I love that. So if you're listening to this and you're aware of communities that can benefit from microgrids, and I think one of the keys is they identify. There's a group of people that identify as a community, and getting their collective voice, behind some decision. There are literally thousands and thousands of these places around the country that can become catalysts for a modern grid. So thank you for sharing that utility light model. Do you have anything else to say, though, about community scale, microgrids, the economics of that, and then, what else should we geek out on related to batteries and microgrids?
So these two communities in Hawaii and Orange County, California. In Hawaii specifically, and I mean that article that Lisa Cohn wrote spelled out some of the small little nuances of that uniqueness in Hawaii. But this particular community was this solar for all money that was just kind of taken away from many communities. But this solar for all money that was meant to help support solar on LMI, low to moderate income communities. This community was trying really hard for years to get access to this money to support their community. They put out multiple RFPs to get solar developers to come in and give them pricing, give them, a bid or whatnot. No bidders. No one responded to their RFPs. Now, there's a whole different reason why and this and that, but when we came in, it was kind of a scenario where I cannot do 1, 2, 5 houses. The economics just don't work. But if I'm bringing in a 3,000 home order, you and I both know now I get economies of scale. Mm-hmm. I'm not buying 2, 5, 10 batteries. I'm buying 3,000. And just so you know, at our solution in Hawaii, we're putting 40 kWh of battery. We're not putting in a small little 10 kWh battery. We're putting 40 kWh of battery. Why? Because this community needs resiliency, right? So we have buying power because we are fulfilling the entire community. In Orange County, we told the park owner, we cannot do 4 or 5 or your top 10, energy hog users. We need to do the full community. Well, guess what? This community is only 89 homes. So it's not like this huge 20,000 home community, but with the 89 homes, we have buying power. We have installing power because now we've got an installer that can come up and install 89 all at once. So now we can reduce the cost. So we're using that buying power of the entire community. And then now we can pull it together. We create solutions. Why? Because we have a higher opportunity for economies of scale. So, people think that I need 5,000, 20,000, and this is our smallest community, the 89, but the metrics work. We reduced their utility cost by 40%. It went down from 38 cents per kWh down to 24 cents. We're
Nice.
Installing HV mini splits in all of these, trailer home parks. These homes, the mini splits originally would have been $5,000 per unit. In the bulk purchase, it was $3,000. And then now we're able to do it for an extra 2 cents per kWh. That's ridiculous. To have a brand new HVAC, higher efficiency, better, cleaner air, blah, blah, all that stuff. So people don't understand. We didn't have to go and ask for grant money. We didn't have to ask for somebody to give us a handout. All we did was just take what everybody knows in business and use it to our advantage.
I love it. And I think this is a tremendous opportunity for the solar industry. If you're a residential or light commercial installer or a C&I installer, don't think about doing one and one and one. Think about doing projects that involve 50, 100, 1,000 home projects, whether it's new construction or retrofit. It's a both and. Obviously, it's simpler when it's new construction in many ways, but we need to do this en masse. we got to get away from this. Well, let's just sprinkle it all over the landscape. Clusters is the key. So, you have your fingers in a lot of things, AJ. I know you're working on books on hydrogen and cybersecurity. Does this do those topics tie into this microgrid business?
Absolutely. Right. So for our project in Hawaii, I'm helping to make the Big Island the first hydrogen county in the United States. As we move towards that, Hawaii, we don't have natural gas, we have propane, right? So one of the things that we're doing in Hawaii specifically is to our residential nanogrids that we've created for this community, we also have a residential fuel cell that we are going to be installing on some of the homes as an added layer of redundancy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this fuel cell can run off of propane, natural gas, or hydrogen. So right now, because we have propane available, many of these homeowners in Hawaii, they've got a huge propane tank in their backyard. That's kind of how our life was in Hawaii, where you've got this propane tank for cooking, dry, and things. So now imagine having a solar battery, electric vehicle charger, and also a propane fuel cell in times of that.
And is the fuel cell that flexible that the same device can burn several types of fuel? Or
yes.
Is it can?
Yeah. Well, we have, full transparent, it's the Watt fuel cell, WATT. Check them out. These guys are freaking awesome, and they manufacture here in the United States, and they have a fuel cell that can run off of hydrogen, as well as, in our case in Hawaii is propane. So now, why is that important? Is because now when we start bringing propane into the, moving out of the conversation and bringing hydrogen, now we can actually take the same redundancy, but now start using a more clean gas, right? Giving us that ability to add redundancy while supporting the growth of hydrogen economy in a place like Hawaii.
Yeah, what's your take on the hydrogen economy? It's a mixed bag, right? Because a lot of the hydrogen, there is a hydrogen economy. It's mostly gray hydrogen from fossil fuels. You take methane and you crack it into carbon and hydrogen. But of course, you can make green hydrogen from water. You break H2O with electrolysis. So you just put green electricity from wind and solar into that machine, and out comes hydrogen. Clean and green. So what's your take on the hydrogen economy?
I think I definitely see it as a part of our future, but I also see it being in very targeted locations. California is right for it because we have a ton of excess renewable energy that's being produced.
Yeah.
So much so that we're paying another state to take our excess renewable energy, and we're curtailing it, right? So in places like California, where we have all this excess, we should be utilizing that opportunity to create green hydrogen. In places like Hawaii, we don't have excess. It sucks. We don't have the ability to use electrolysis, but because of the need for more redundancy, resiliency, clean energy, energy independence, we need more resources like hydrogen. We have access to different resources with a potential for an abundance of solar, a potential for abundance of wind, a potential for geothermal. But by us creating that landscape, we could utilize hydrogen in Hawaii very effectively.
When you say Hawaii doesn't have a plethora of renewable energy, is that because it's land constrained? There's not enough land to put the solar farms on?
All of the above. Who the heck wants to fly to the most beautiful place on earth and see a bunch of solar farms?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my backyard. There's no way in heck I would sit there and say, throw up a wind farm back here. Don't you block my views for my pictures, right? Yeah. So you have to be very conscious about taking away from the land that we have, right? So, the reality is we don't, even though we have access to the beautiful resources that God and the universe has given us, we have to be sensitive. So we don't have that excess that California has.
Okay, so hydrogen, anything else about hydrogen you want to say?
To me, Hawaii, the reason why we are trying to make the Big Island the first hydrogen county in the United States is because of all the things we talked about, the access to all of these natural resources, if we use them responsibly, but also the need that we have, right? So if we concentrate all of our resources to the Big Island, we have an island the size of the state of Connecticut. And this is something, I was on the Arches team in California that won the $1 billion for the hydrogen hub. If we build a hydrogen fueling station in Southern California and build one in Northern California, the likelihood of a hydrogen truck fueling here and then going up and fueling there, that may not happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if I fuel a hydrogen fueling station in Kona and build one in Hilo, the likelihood of that truck will be using all of it is very high because you're on an island, right? We've got 2 airports, we've got 2 or 3 shipping ports, we've got, stationary power. The state of Hawaii says all backup power for hospitals and hotels have to be clean energy by 2035 or 2040. We've got heavy transportation. You cannot take an electric bus from Kona to Hilo because we don't have the right infrastructure and not big enough batteries. Mm-hmm. So hydrogen is the perfect vehicle for stationary power, heavy duty transportation, airports and ship ports. So that's a good place. Everywhere else in the country, hydrogen is going to be great for now.
And the hydrogen will be shipped in just like oil and gas are shipped in? Is that the idea?
Potentially. So, I will also say this. In California, first public hydrogen was stood up earlier this past year. It's a joint power authority that was created, and they will become, I'll call it a broker, as a joint public authority. Mm-hmm. They will be able to aggregate supply of green hydrogen and then also support the offtake scenario. Hawaii will become one of those off-takers. And why is that important? Because as Hawaii is working towards creating their own hydrogen supply, we have access to this bridge of having an entity like First Public that is in the United States sourcing green hydrogen to supply Hawaii until we ramp up and create the supply we need.
So let's talk about supply chain because, in the microgrid space, whether it's batteries or fuel cells or generators, supply chain matters. And we have incentives for buying made in America equipment, but guess what? It's very hard to find made in America batteries. So what are your thoughts about microgrid equipment and manufacturing?
So over the past couple of years, while I've been helping build these microgrid integration and aggregation entities, simultaneously, I have had many technology manufacturers step up and ask, AJ, can you help us create our go-to-market strategy in the United States? Everything from smaller startups all the way up to really large, globally known brands. So I've helped them create their go-to-market strategy. And over the past year, many of those strategies included localized manufacturing. And prior to the administration change, it was also just because of the plethora of opportunities in the United States. But since the administration change, a lot of it is like, we see the need for US made products and US manufacturing. What we are actively engaged in now is creating these industrial centers for manufacturing of these technologies in an area that can help create a more vertically integrated solution. So for instance, in California, I have a solar panel manufacturer that has built, this is their 3rd manufacturing plant in California. I also have another group out of, Korea that wants to create a solar microinverter. They want to do localized manufacturing. So I brought these two together saying, maybe you guys should be closer to each other so we could put your solar panels, which are higher efficiency, made in the USA with a made in the USA microinverter that does this. And then now we're also bringing a fuel cell that also is going to be made in the United States. So we're bringing all of these different technologies that they're asking me to help create their go-to-market strategy. Why? Because I got customers. That's the reality. is they're coming to me because I've got 3,000 customers here, another 5,000 customers here. So it's not just AJ, we want your knowledge of go-to-market strategy. Is I want your knowledge, resources, and your customers. But if you can build me the right widget, why wouldn't I put it in my projects? And if you're willing to look at the other products that we're using and the technologies that could be complementary, let's keep building this. And it's a win-win. We get a made in USA product at a price point that's better, that is creating an actual solution for the problem that we are solving, and everybody's working together. So we're trying to create that harmonious landscape.
Yeah, the IRA created these 45X incentives, and my understanding is those are still in play. So there are incentives for onshoring and reshoring of solar modules, wafers, inverters, wind turbine components, battery cells, modules,
Yep.
as well as other materials, 50 designated critical materials. Well, in our last few minutes together, AJ, what do energy professionals need to know that they may not know today? Like that, I think, is one of the best things you and I can do for the community is plant some seeds, whether that's an event, a publication, a person like yourself or Jigger Shah. Those are two good ones. But what should energy professionals who want to go deeper and faster into solar and batteries or batteries and microgrids, what do they need to know?
I can only share what has worked for me. And what has worked for me is, when I talk to people, I tell them I don't install residential solar. I've never put solar on a house. I put them on the whole community, right? So I don't knock on doors and do that. And I feel that the reason why I do that is because I don't want to protect just one family. I want to protect that entire community. My attitude towards that approach is very prevalent. I don't walk in saying, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'd like to help you. I sit there and say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you do not want to be the only house with power and the entire community that you live in is black. If you do that, there will be a right to come over to your house. We need to make sure that every house in this community has their power on when there's a blackout. Would you agree? That attitude allows the people that I serve to see how important it is in so many different reasons why we need to approach this from a very large scale approach. Now, that's one scenario. The other scenario is I was growing up, I was jack of all trades, master of none. You said it, AJ, you're involved in all these things. I believe the siloed approach of the expert in solar, the expert in battery, the expert in hydrogen, if we're not expanding our understanding, knowledge, resources, and contacts in the overall solution for the people and communities that we serve, we're not going to give them the full opportunity to solve their problem. Meaning, if I go to a project with just myself, if I don't have a telecom guy, a solar guy, a battery guy, a controls, if I don't have all of those things in my back pocket, then I'm not serving the people that I'm trying to help out in the best way. So, you have to have those resources, have those connections, reach out to people like me and you that can say, hey, you got to talk to these people. Build that team that can help you serve better.
Yeah, that for sure is one of my superpowers, is connecting people to other knowledgeable experts, both in certain geographies or certain segments of the economy. And
I have seen that a lot with you, Tim. You are really good at that.
Hey guys, are you a residential solar installer doing light commercial but wanting to scale into large C&I solar? I'm Tim Montague. I've developed over 150 megawatts of commercial solar, and I've solved the problem that you're having. You don't know what tools and technologies you need in order to successfully close 100 kW to megawatt scale projects. I've developed a commercial solar accelerator to help installers exactly like you. Just go to cleanpowerhour.com, click on strategy, and book a call today. It's totally free with no obligation. Thanks for being a listener. I really appreciate you listening to the pod. And I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage. Go to Clean Power Hour and click strategy today. Thanks so much. I also highly encourage you listeners to get involved with your local or regional trade organization. Here in Illinois, it's the Illinois Solar and Storage Association. There's a Gulf States Renewable Energy Industries Association. There's a CALSA, California Solar and Storage Association. There's a Mid-Atlantic Solar and Storage Association, et cetera, et cetera. These regional organizations are super important for driving forward key legislation. In America, it happens at the state level. Really, the state lever is so important in the age of the OBBB. If you look around the country, if you look at a map of Sunrun, where they're operating, okay, those are the states that have good solar legislation, period, full stop. And, it's things like community solar, VPP legislation, allowing, installers will gladly jump on this VPP train if it's allowed, right? The utility has to play ball. And when industry brings the opportunities, as you have, to the utility and said, look, you can save money, you can have a more resilient grid, they're going to get on board. So go regional and, also go national. We're just coming back from Vegas for RE Plus, and, that's a massive trade show, 50,000 energy professionals. And I highly encourage you to go to these larger events as well. AJ, how can our listeners find you?
LinkedIn is the best way. I'm not hard to find on LinkedIn. Also, I speak at conferences and conventions, all over the place. I will be at RE Plus. I think I'll be on stage 9-10 times. So it's not hard to find me. LinkedIn is probably the best way.
Fantastic. Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Check out my book, Wired for Sun, available on Amazon. You can just go to cleanpowerhour.com, go to the book tab to learn more about the book, and reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. I love connecting with my listeners. I want to thank AJ Perkins. The microgrid whisper is my new favorite expression for you. And with that, I'll say, let's grow solar and storage. Thanks so much, AJ.
You're welcome, brother. Take care, everybody. Aloha.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 10 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS product lineup includes string inverters ranging from 25 kW to 350 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 350 kW, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. CPS is the world's most bankable inverter brand and is America's #1 choice for solar plants, now offering solutions for commercial, utility, ESS, and balance of system requirements. Go to chintpowersystems.com or call 855-584-7168 to find out more.